Since the release of Serum 2.0, I've spent over 100 hours with it, learning it, experimenting with it, chasing those weird psychedelic noises just to see how far things can go with it. And trust me, I'm barely scratching the surface. So in today's tutorial, I want to show you my favorite new features of Serum 2.0, some of the new tricks that I've learned and the workflows I've built around them. But before we dive into this tutorial, if you like my content and want to support my work, don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. Things like that helps the channel a lot. And if you're feeling like buying me a coffee, there's a super thanks button for that. Now that said, let's dive into this tutorial. Starting with a feature and a sound design technique I've been trying hard to emulate in Serum 1, and that is oscillator feedback and what I like to call out-of-tune FM. See, I'm obsessed with FM synthesis, especially the DX7 style FM synthesis, where you have an operator FMing other operators and it can also FM itself. And now in Serum 2.0 we can do that, and as we say in France, je suis sur le cul, which means I'm blown away. Check this out. This is my DX7 style FM starting point. We have 3 oscillators. Each one of them is FMing the other. So we have oscillator B FMing oscillator A, oscillator C FMing oscillator B, and each one of them is FMing itself. And with this technique, we can create out of this world tones. Check this out. So let's start by setting oscillator B and oscillator C to ratio modes. So right click, mode, ratio, just like so. And they're going to follow the pitch of oscillator A, just like so. Now let's FM oscillator A from oscillator B. And by the way, in here I'm using phase modulation. This is the FM in Serum 1 and this is the FM in the DX7. Let's change the ratio of oscillator B. Set it to maybe 3, like so. We're getting something interesting. Let's add some phase modulation from oscillator C to oscillator B. Something like that. And now let's set the ratio of oscillator C, maybe 11. But the sound is a bit static. So what we can do in here is, to give it some movement, we can change the tuning of oscillator B. Just a little bit. Now, I want to make the sound a little bit more bright and aggressive, and for that I'm going to introduce a little bit of oscillator self-FMing itself, basically. So let's start with oscillator B. Now let's add a little bit from oscillator C. Nice. Now I want to add a bit more movement. For that, I'm going to change the chorus pitch of oscillator C, just a little bit. Now let's detune oscillator B just a little bit more, like so. Sounds really interesting, but it's a bit static, and I want to add movement to it. For that, I'm going to modulate the pitch of oscillator C. So let's take LFO number 1, let's set it to path. I'm going to take one of my paths that I've drawn. Okay, this is a bit too crazy. Yeah, maybe this one, set it to a rate of 2 bars, free running, and make it modulate the chorus pitch of oscillator C. So now we have this. Nice. Now maybe I'm modulating a bit too much, so let's dial less modulation in the modulation matrix, just like so. Perfect. Now let's filter the sound with a low-pass filter. And now to give it some movement, I'm going to introduce the second filter. I'm going to set it to comp filter, but with a low pass on it, right? I'm going to open the low pass, close the comp filter, give it a little bit of drive, give it a lot of resonance. Now I have this. Of course, I need to send filter number 1 to filter number 2. Now we have this. I'm controlling the high end with the low pass of the comp filter, because when I'll open it, we'll have this. That's way too noisy. So let's close it. Nice. And now we can take another path LFO, I don't know, on random, maybe this one. Let's modulate the cutoff of filter number 2 just a tiny bit. Set the rate something slow, maybe you have 4 bars, free. Now we have this. Check this out. Okay, maybe slower, 8 bars. Now we're entering that weird psychedelic territory, right? Let's go to the effects in here, add a lot of reverb. Let's go with reverb, set it to Hall, give it some size like so. Weird psychedelic noises. But things doesn't always have to be this geeky and weird psychedelic bleep bloop kind of sound designs, because with this technique we can create some of the juiciest squelches out there. Check this out. Same starting point, the X7 style. Turn off oscillator C, right? So only oscillator B, oscillator A. I'm going to start by modulating oscillator A with itself, feedback basically. Now oscillator B, I'm going to set it to harmonics mode, just like so. And I'm going to FM oscillator A from oscillator B. Frequency modulate, not phase modulate, right? So FMB. Those harsh FM-ish tones. Now, what I'm going to do in here, I'll modulate the coarse pitch of oscillator A using note on random 1, and I'll modulate the harmonics of oscillator B using note on random 2. Now, I want the modulation from note on random 1 to oscillators A coarse pitch to be unipolar, and note on random 2 to oscillators B harmonics for range bipolar, right? So now we basically have this. We're getting some really interesting tones, right? Let's self-modulate oscillator B with itself. We're getting some really interesting tones out of this one. Let's feedback oscillator B on itself. Wow, those tones. Let's take filter 1, set it to bandpass, just like so. Give it some resonance. Right, and the effects is, let's add some distortion, just like so. Wow, let's add a random arpeggiator, just like so. I've used the techniques I'm showing in this tutorial to create the presets of my Psyche Volume 3 preset bank for Serum 2, so go ahead, check it out and grab your copy, link down in the description. Up to what I like to call le crème de la crème, or the cream of the cream in Serum 2.0, and that is its sample engine. To be more specific, the Spectral one, because with it we can go really far when it comes to psychedelic sound design and just sound design in general. So, I have the sample in here, let's hear it in the sample engine, right? Sounds like this. It's a really weird sample that I've created by mangling a sample I made on the Neutron, adding a lot of effects to it, and then like pitch shifting it in all kind of crazy direction, and then effects again, then pitch shift again. You know, I got this really weird sample. Now, what I'm going to do with it, let's turn on the Spectral engine, right? I'm going to isolate this part, and to do so, let's set the scanning mode in here to manual, right? So this is our starting point. And let's take the first LFO. I'm going to modulate the position so it'll only read this section of the sound. Let's set the rate to maybe 1 bar. Let's see what we have. Okay, that's way too much. Perfect. Let's set the LFO in here to a really slow rate, like maybe 8 bars or 4. Now, what I like the most about this Spectral engine is that we have this filter in here that we can draw ourselves. Check this out. I'll draw something really weird like this, like some sort of a really weird phaser. I really love phasers, right? So let's draw something like a phaser, and you know what? Let's finish it with some sort of a sample and hold kind of configuration, something like this, right? Now we have this. Listen to this. We've just created a really weird phaser. And what I'm going to do in here, let's set the cutoff, yeah, maybe somewhere in here. I'll take the second LFO, I'll make it modulate the cutoff, basically. Let's set it to a path, and let's go with one of my paths. By the way, all of these paths can be found in Psyche Volume 3, preset bank for Serum 2. And yeah, let's set the rate to maybe like 2 bars, something like that, free running. Now I have this. Right? Now I want to give the sound a little bit of a beating feeling to it, right? And one of the best way to do it is by using ring modulation. I'll ring modulate it from the sub oscillator. Of course, I'll take its level down and RM from sub, right? Let's give it some modulation all the way up. And let's take the coarse pitch of the sub oscillator till we start having a little bit of beating. Crazy sound designs needs crazy filtering, and throughout those 100 hours with Serum 2.0, I found myself using a lot those two filters. The first one is the Wasp filter. I've already loaded it on filter number 2. You'll see why in a bit. This filter is juicy, mellow, and just sounds incredible. Check this out. Let's turn off Oscillator A. Turn on Oscillator C. I've already routed it to filter number 2, took it one octave lower, and now let's give the filter some resonance and listen to this. Wow. But the sound of this filter isn't all, because the most interesting feature of it is this morphing knob in here, because it can morph from low pass to a notch to a high pass. And with this, we can add so much movement to the sound. Check this out. Let's take down the resonance a little bit, turn off Oscillator C, turn on Oscillator A, send it to filter number 2, right? Now, let's modulate the cutoff of filter number 2 with another path. Let's set LFO3 in here to path, just like so. Let's take one of the paths, maybe this one. Okay, a bit too crazy. Yeah, this one. Set it to maybe 2 bars, just like so. Make it modulate the cutoff. And now we have this. Okay, faster modulation, 1 bar. Right, and now let's take LFO number 3 and make it modulate the morphing of the second filter. Let's set it to a rate of maybe 1 bar, but triplets. And now we have this. Check this out. The movement it added to the sound. Let's go to the effects in here and just give it some OTT vibes to level up the sound a little bit, squash it a tiny bit. So factory presets in here, OTT, Serum 1, now we have this. Now, the second filter, and this one blew my mind, is the PZ SVF filter. Basically, you're getting 4 filters that you can morph between, but this is not why I'm here. See, this filter allows us to draw our own shapes. You know what this means for a geek like me? And even if you're not a geek, we finally have a synthesizer that allows us to draw our own filter shapes. In my humble opinion, this is one of the best sound design and learning tools you can get. Now, I like bandpass filters and phaser filters, and I've already created a filter that combines both of them. Check this out. Here's my filter. Now, let's give it some resonance. Let's send Oscillator A to filter number 1, right? Turn off filter number 2 for now, and listen to what we'll get. I'll give it some resonance. Now we have this. Hear this character? Now, let's turn on filter number 2, send filter number 1 to filter number 2, just like so, and now listen to what we will get. Wow, let's give it some delay, and now we have this. This is just wow, the character and the juiciness we got from the Spectral oscillator mixed with this PZ SVF filter and the Wasp filter, just out of this world. And this is just a glimpse of what we can do with Serum 2.0, and I'm really excited to hear what other people are going to do with it, because this thing is a beast. So go to your studio, create some crazy sound designs with it, and share them with us. And with this is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you've liked it. I really hope you've learned something new. I'll see you in the next one.